Sawabona family, in the classroom today, we stand up against injustice for our students, our families, and our communities. Most specifically, today, we will be talking about the September 8th SCOTUS decision.
So today we have some amazing guests, educators themselves, but part of an organization called the Association of Raza School Educators, ARE for short. So stay tuned because the Critically Conscious Classroom is next.
Microphone check 1 2 1 2. Welcome to the Critically Conscious Classroom. I am one of your hosts, Anthony Robinson, here with my lovely co-host, Dr. Tracie Noriega. As I mentioned at the top of the show, we will be standing frontline for our families, communities, and students today, specifically focusing on the September 8th SCOTUS decision. Just to give a little bit of context before we dive into our conversation, I'm just going to read something to you all. So, on September 8th, the U.S. Supreme Court unsigned an order in which it allowed federal officers to resume making immigration-related stops and raids in Los Angeles and beyond. So this SCOTUS order permits the resumption of immigration enforcement activities that could involve stops based on factors such as appearance, occupation, or language someone speaks, rather than requiring specific evidence. So I want to take it a little further, Dr. Noriega, because in the past couple of weeks since this has happened, there are two things that I've seen, one from just being on social media, but also from just turning my TV on. The first thing that I saw was on their TikTok specifically, the White House just launched this new video series, one of them in which they're showing Latinx folks being arrested with the Pokemon music playing in the background. And in addition to that, I've seen an influx of commercials, specifically asking local police officers to join ICE, offering them things like a $50,000 signing bonus. So for those of you all who are watching with us today, when we talk about being vigilant, it's not just about standing on the front line for our students and their families, but also being abreast of what's actually happening in the world.
So important, right? But also note, you said you saw those recently, and then you quoted a decision by SCOTUS just in September. And we know these federal orders came, like gangbusters in January. But this isn't new. This isn't new. My husband and I, we just celebrated our 29th wedding anniversary last Sunday. We always, like to go and explore, and we love Angel Island for hiking and biking and what have you. And we actually stopped at the immigration center at Angel Island. And one of the first plaques that you see was that Angel Island enforced the Chinese Exclusion Act, right, in the late 1800s. And you see these barracks. You see how Asian immigrants were separated from European immigrants, because very similar to Ellis Island, in New York, right? Angel Island was the other side of what we know as of the United States. But this isn't new, right? These tactics have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's there. And I've also seen where the current federal administration is trying to erase a number of these facts of history, right, from national parks. So if you've never been to Angel Island, I definitely encourage you to check it out, especially since it's super close by. But we are talking about Los Angeles today. And it was very specific to invite some folks from Los Angeles because, being a Northern California girl, Bay Area specifically, I like to, I don't know. Am I really a SoCal fan? I don't know. At the same time, you got to give it up to Los Angeles because they really came through. And I was just so inspired by a lot of the community activism actually being done by our educators, right? Our fellow educators. So let's go ahead and bring on our guests today so that we can introduce them to all of you. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome,
Hello.
welcome to Lupe Carrasco Cardona, someone I've known for a number of years. My sis in this ethnic studies work. Today you are at Los Angeles, and we have Don Hammond here joining us as well, an educator himself. So I just want to go ahead and turn it over to both of you. Like, can you introduce yourselves to us and tell us a little bit why, you came to this work?
Sure. Is it okay, Dawn, if I go first, so I can kind of lay the groundwork?
Thank you.
So I'm the chair of the Association of Raza Educators, and it's very interesting because it's a grassroots organization. It's not a nonprofit. Like, all of us are 100% volunteers, and we came to like birth when there was a very similar circumstance happening here in the state of California with Proposition 187. And so there are members of another organization. It's a political organization called Unión del Barrio. And, there's a whole sector of educators, and they were really upset with the lack of really just like support being offered for the terror that students were experiencing in San Diego at that time. Like, they were feeling that the local unions weren't doing enough to help teachers help students, and they also felt that the districts weren't really giving the support, and we're really saying to them that if Proposition 187 passes, that they would have to open up their classrooms and allow students to be, profiled and taken out. And so that's when the Association of Raza Educators was born. So here we are, 30 something years later, and we're still doing a lot of grassroots organizing. We've been some of the people, boots on the ground, supporting ethnic studies resolutions across the state. We've been, really supporting like AB 101, and just trying to ensure that educators have all the tools they need to get good education to the classrooms, right? And we know that ethnic studies saves lives. Ethnic studies is important, and it's also still right now being usurped. And so I came to this work because, we're talking about like my children, your children. We're talking about our neighbors. We're talking about our students. We're talking about the people who are really the ones that are like building the nation, right? Doing all the things that need to be done to ensure that we're all taken care of, that we all have, they're basically they're working, right? They're working, they're doing all the things that people are supposed to be doing and getting zero credit for it. They're getting their labor extracted and then being thrown away in a very horrific way, right? And I saw earlier in the chat that somebody had put racial profiling. Absolutely, this is racial profiling. We're, as the Association of Raza Educators, completely against it. We're against this happening to migrants and immigrant students, any student of color, and for those out there that have that that idea that only those who are citizens should be protected. Racial profiling puts people who are citizens in danger as well, right? Because it means if you have a certain look, which could be my son, could be your son, it could be anybody's child or family member, could either be the one that is harassed, picked up, terrorized, or they could witness it. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't want my babies, seeing their friends, their neighbors going through this. So all around, that's what brings me to the work. It's, the humanizing that our people need. They need to have more support, more love, more opportunities to be who they were meant to be, not to be further dehumanized and live in further terror and have further, trauma inflicted on them. It's just horrific. So thank you, Don, for for giving me that space. So what brings you to the work?
Uhuru. Yes. So first off, I represent the African People's Socialist Party and the long-standing 50-plus-year relationship between Rasta and African internationalism. And from the African People's Socialist Party understands Are's work as a form of national liberation struggle within the educational arena. Their fight for culturally relevant education is a fight against the cultural imperialism of the settler state, which seeks to assimilate and subjugate oppressed nations. And this is the basis for the solidarity between the Raza liberation struggle and the African liberation struggle in the US. We are both fighting the same system that uses similar tools: police terror, educational inequality, economic exploitation, and political disenfranchisement. Uhuru. And Uhuru means freedom in Kiswahili, and that is how we greet one another in the Uhuru movement.
That was powerful from both of you all. As you both were talking, there were some phrases and words that resonated with me. Obviously, racial profiling. You talked about inequality. You talked about terrorism. So my question to you is, boots on the ground, as Dr. Noriega said, we're in Northern California.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you all are seeing and experiencing in your communities?
Some of the things that we have been seeing is like, obviously, like there's been an evolution of how they're coming in and committing terror. By and large, we knew we were pretty well organized leading up to January. In November, Unión del Barrio put a call out for a coalition. So we developed the Community Self-Defense Coalition, which is 65 to 70 other grassroots organizations and like 1,000 members at this point throughout Los Angeles and Los Angeles County. And so what we did was we did the organizing ourselves, we did the training ourselves, and just really kind of helped illuminate exactly what it is that we're looking for and what we can do to stay constitutionally protected in terms of like, we're not doing anything that we didn't already have the right to be able to do. We know that, yes, there was the SCOTUS decision, but we also know that that SCOTUS decision is a very biased one that isn't, within the actual reading correctly of the Constitution. And so what we have done is we've trained folks to make sure that they do stay within what is protected. And because we did this, even though there was so much investment in terror in LA and LA County, we were able to prevent kidnappings from happening. There were way less kidnappings in Los Angeles and Los Angeles County than in other major cities where less investment in the terror was happening, like cities like Miami, for instance. And so so a lot of the organizing and the communication that we've been doing has been really, if you really want to know the truth, what I feel is like the hope. And we have a saying, solo el pueblo salva el pueblo. It's like only the community can save the community. So we're organizing ourselves. As an educator, we're organizing within our educator circles and within our clusters of schools. And then as community members, we're doing the same. And so those grassroots organizations are, when we're at school teaching and we can't be out there answering calls about ICE raids, et cetera, those community members are doing that. And so I think if anything, it's a model that would be really beautiful to see happen in all the cities, because we know that our tax dollars are going to be released to them, October 1st. So I foresee this happening in many cities simultaneously, and we all have to be ready. And I think LA is proof that when you are organized, you can literally protect your communities.
I want to shout you out, Lupe, because I want people to see the whole picture. I mean, you are a teacher, you're a high school teacher, right? You run a visual performing arts program, but in the mornings, and I know this because we've tried to have early morning meetings and, and trainings on the weekends. And before you do all that, you go on patrol. Mm-hmm. Not just you, but some other, yes, Dawn, right? You're doing this at early, right? And you're going to these spaces and you are on the lookout for potential, ICE raids happening, alerting the communities. And then you go be a mom, right? Mm-hmm. To your 3 beautiful children, as well as your beautiful babies at school, right? You teach, you're a professor at CSU, you're a professor in the evening too. So you do all these things. And I just want to just shout you out, because this is what ethnic studies does. This is the idea of community collective care.
Yeah.
And you just absolutely inspire me. And
Thank you.
as well as all of the things that you did to provide families with some support, right? So I know, Don, you're in Orange County, I believe, right? So what are some of the things
Yes.
that you are seeing in your community?
So, just for the viewers, there's a stark difference, yet similarity in what happens in Orange County and Los Angeles County. So, to answer the question of what am I seeing and experiencing in my community as a paraeducator, I'm seeing a legacy of displacement, the forced removal of Africans from Orange County. I'm seeing a stark narrative of settler colonial expansion, capitalist land commodification, and a perpetual struggle of African people against a system designed for their exclusion and their exploitation. The county's transformation into a bastion of white affluence and political conservatism. And this push out of Africans is understood as a continuous process. Uh, Domestic manifestation of the global dispersal and subjugation of African people. And today, this is manifesting as demographic and geographic erasure, economic exploitation and carceral control, political marginalization, and an ideological hegemony, and a symbolic recolonization and massive tourism. Cities like Santa Ana, once home to a vibrant Black community, now have Black populations below 2%. And also, I don't know if we are following the ACLU's reports, but between 2003 and 2024, the LAUSD lost, I want to say it was a very large percentage of its African student population.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's also something that we've seen is in the mainstream narrative. This has been a very like indigenous Latino sort of like what they've been showing is happening, that this ICE terror is only happening in that community. And the reality is that in South Central, when I do a lot of patrolling, I run across lots of folks that are really concerned and are sharing their fear, that are, from Belize, like Belizean, Jamaican, Haitian. And so you can see this is absolutely a, racist project that is happening. There's a very racist rhetoric, and it's impacting indigenous peoples that come from Mexico, Central America, and below, and it's also impacting the African diaspora as well. And it's just, I cannot believe that we're in this time in history where this level of racism is so pervasive. Like, we knew that it existed. We knew that it impacted students. We knew that ethnic studies was something that could help, right? It was an antidote to that. We knew all of these things, but I never imagined that it would become so mainstream to be racist, to be a white supremacist, and if anything, to be so protected and so held and uplifted like it is right now. I most definitely think that this is a stain in the history of this country, like of several others, right, that have existed. The enslavement of African people, for instance, like the genocide of indigenous peoples, and what we're seeing right now, I think is equal in that what they're trying to do to people. And it's honestly quite scary. It's and I'm really worried about things like AB 715, which is going to create these like academic freedom censorships in classrooms, which I fear is going to prevent teachers or create like a chill effect, where we're not going to see people talking about these things in classrooms, which is so necessary in order for people to understand and have words for what they see and feel happening all around them, and so that they can be able to be moved to act and to like be a part of undoing what is happening right now, because this is honestly, like, this is creating real mental health, crises in our schools. And, we're talking about peoples who are already like having like generational trauma in their ancestries. And now, like, here we are again, inflicting another one right before our eyes. And something that I want to say too is, like, as a Chicano and Chicana Studies adjunct lecturer at Cal State Northridge, and also in my teaching of ethnic studies, like, one of my units has always been around another stain in the history of this country, or in this state of California, which is like Operation Wetback and the repatriations that happened in the 30s and 40s. And in the past, when I've taught it, like, I think students, they were moved by it, they learned, they were upset, but I don't think they fully grasped it because they hadn't actually seen it. It was something in the past. And here we are, where it's like, I can show case in point, like, this is what happened then, when millions of people were, I don't even want to say deported, because deportation requires you going to a country that you're from. Like, when you're removing people who are citizens and sending them to a country where they have never been, or where they weren't born, that is not deportation. That is some other weird thing that is going on. Like, for instance, sending Venezuelans to El Salvador, or to other parts of the world where they're not even from. This is insane. This is crazy, and we must be teaching about it, and we have to talk about it. And something for me as an educator that's so important, as a community organizer, is we need to ensure that our students and their families know that it is not their fault. If they're working and they're contributing, it is not their fault. This is a stain on somebody else. This is not them. That they have a whole community of people behind them. And that is something that a call to action is, like, let's all, like, rise up and really, like, help to defend our communities, because it's going to be a sad day if all of these folks are, missing here in this country. It's going to be very sad.
You said so much, and it's absolutely scary. It's absolutely scary, and I just wonder about how people understand. Maybe they don't, but through all of this, I hope people can see these connections.
Yeah.
Right. You talked about Assembly Bill 715, which we talked about with Dr. Montaño and Dr. Tintianco Cubales. Right. And I actually talked about it on the last show as well. It's going to the governor's desk, and we are all fighting so that he vetoes that. Governor Newsom just signed a bill from Assemblymember Moritsuchi, right? Assembly Bill 49, that says it prohibits schools from allowing immigration enforcement officers on campus without a warrant. And then there's another one, Senate bill, shout out to Assemblymember Moritsuchi, who abstained on the vote in Assembly for 715. Just a quick shout out for that. And authoring this bill. And then there's Senate Bill 627 that says it prohibits federal and local law enforcement officers from wearing face masks while conducting their duties, right? Mm-hmm. So when you talk about, these ICE officers just popping up and kidnapping folks, covering their faces, no accountability, it is pretty scary. Yeah. But when you can't talk about something like that in schools, right, which Assembly Bill 715 will do, should the governor sign off on it, then how do we know, right? And then it goes back to what you said in terms of community collective care. You described how this self-defense coalition, now 1,000 members across LA County, came together, right, to support families, to teach each other. And I just want you and Don to tell us a little bit more. Like, can you speak specifically to what you all have done for families when these things have happened, when their family members go missing and kidnapped?
Sure. So a couple of things. So Unión del Barrio is one of the steering committee organizations, and so is the Association of Raza Educators. We are the ones that answer the calls when people are reporting ICE staging or actual ICE raids. And so our volunteers are in shifts, and they're the ones that get the information to the different organizations depending on where it's happening throughout the city. So some of the things that that we were getting in addition to those calls were calls about, people being afraid to go to the grocery store, to go to the doctor. We had a family whose daughter just had a baby, but going to her last doctor appointment, she was fearful. So, that wasn't something that the Community Self-Defense Coalition was really geared to do, like that mutual aid. And so we, as the Association of Raza Educators, found out about this need, and our membership said, you know what, let's do a temporary campaign in the summer. And so we spent a lot of our summer, putting the call out, getting community members to donate funds, and then we would go to various grocery stores. We made sure that we had people that we knew were safe, like safely vetted folks. And like there was Venmo coming in, Venmo going out, like all day long. And people were going grocery shopping for specific items, and sometimes diapers and formula, delivering it to homes and talking to the families and letting them know, like, this is mutual aid. The community cares. You are supported. This is not coming from the government. This is not coming from a nonprofit organization. This is from the people, And so that was like really important, because we want them to know that there are people all around that are not okay with this, because we need them to know that they are supported and cared for. At the end of the summer, it was $16,000 raised, and about 160 families throughout LA County that were given groceries. And it breaks my heart because I still get emails. By the way, we didn't advertise this campaign. It came through the phone, or it came through our students, like their parents reaching out to us. And then it was word of mouth. That's totally how it happened. But once we see that families are in need of immigrant attorney assistance, we have immigrant defenders here in LA that has been doing a lot to support families, etc. But I want to touch on something real quick, Tracie, that you mentioned. You talked about the bill that would prevent federal agents from wearing masks, right? That's wonderful and great, because people should show their face, right? So, that's the pride. If they feel prideful in what they're doing, then show your face. But we do know that it's not just federal agents or official people on the streets. We know that there are mercenaries, bounty hunters. We've been hearing about them. There's been rumors of them, and we know confirmed that they exist, because a student who's supposed to be a senior at Reseda High School this year, his name is Benjamin Marcelo Guerrero Cruz. He is right now being held in Adelanto. They picked him up 2 weeks after his 18th birthday while he was walking his dog at 7 a.m. And he recounted the story to his teacher, who went to go see him. And essentially what he shared was that it was 3 plainclothes men with masks that took him, released his dog into the street, held him in a parking lot for 15 minutes when they laughed and joked that they were going to get money for the weekend, the $1,500 for the weekend. Then some official vehicles came into the parking lot, paperwork was exchanged, and he was exchanged. So we know that that's how they were getting around things like the temporary restraining order, which is now, completely moot with that SCOTUS decision. And that's how they're getting away from things like, federal regulations against racial profiling, et cetera. It's very sad.
Wow.
Also, I just want to note that the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement, and this is a quote from an article on the Burning Spear. We stand unconditionally with the Mexican and Indigenous and other Latin American people of the barrios of Los Angeles, Paramount, and Compton, who are in a state of powerful resistance on their own land. We salute Unión del Barrio, our closest compañeros, for 40 years, recognizing that Indigenous and Mexican people are the rightful owners of this land, from Alaska to the tip of Chile. Uhuru.
Lupe and Don, you all have said so much. Like, I'm taking it all in. But I have, it's a two-part question, and I'll pack them both together. But I do want to highlight two comments that we got. The first one is from Lester Powell. He said, "This is life-lasting trauma for our communities." And then we had another one from Tiffany Hampton, who says, "Our kids need our care, advocacy, hope, and support." So here's the two-part question for you both. First and foremost, and Lupe, you started this, but what's the actual call to action? What can we do? How can we support our students, our families, our campuses, our communities, each other?
Yeah.
And then the second part of the question is, we often talk about rest and self-care. So how can we take care of ourselves in these times doing this work?
Thank you. I mean, what can we do to support? I think one of the things that we need to do is to give our districts, our administrators, the power to be able to give the school structures the power to be able to lock down if necessary. And then I think also, putting resources behind things like safe passage from home to school, putting resources behind ensuring that that the schools are constantly, being kind of patrolled to ensure that there's no ICE activity, especially when parents are dropping students off, picking students up, or at bus stops nearby. Currently, we're doing that as volunteers, and we've used our union structures to do that. But I would like to see some resource go behind that. And then I think, we need to continue to push on our legislators to do the right thing, like the Senate bill that's going to prevent agents from being able to wear masks. But I think ultimately we just need to keep fighting, because the unconstitutionality of even the SCOTUS decision on September 8th is ridiculous. Like, we need to have some things be sacred, and there's complete lack of sanctity in what is happening right now. Like, you can see that either they do not understand the Constitution, or they're really, really willing to just ignore it for their own, honestly, extremely racist, project that they are enacting right now. So I would definitely say, let's continue to hold everyone accountable. Anyone with any level of power needs to right now exercise that power to do the right thing and not acquiesce like what we have seen with AB 715.
My answer to that. So first off, for me, this and as an African internationalist, I understand this ruling not as an anomaly, but the logical outcome of a state that has always used law to enforce racial hierarchy. The task is not to persuade the court, but to dismantle the system that it serves. So the call to action, the answer to both of those questions is join an organization, join Unión del Barrio, join the African peoples. If you are Mexican or indigenous, join Unión del Barrio. If you are African, join the African People's Socialist Party. And if you just so happen to be North American, join the African People's Solidarity Committee, and let us strengthen our movements. Uhuru.
Uhuru, and thank you for that.
Thank you both so much for sharing these insights, especially as our educators in the classrooms, right? And this is how ethnic studies comes to life. This is how ethnic studies leaves the classroom. So I just want to, again, thank you both for the work that you are doing. Thank you both for painting this picture for us. I know that we have a number of educators that are watching and will watch this, or will listen to it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify now. But your call to actions and the words that you shared with us today are super important. And I hope that we remember it. It's not old. I mean, it's not new, right? It's been happening over the course of however many hundreds of years. And if we don't come together to fight it, it's going to continue to repeat itself.
Thank you.
Thank you,
He said,
Lupe.
we are winning, comrades.
We are.
We are.
We
We
are.
are.
We need to.
So
We need to.
So we are now at the point where we do have to bid you adieu, Lupe and Don. We really appreciate you all, and we hope to continue this conversation with you all at a later date. We hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So Tracie, that was a heavy conversation for those of you all watching. I hope you really take some time to chew on those nuggets. But we're gonna have to go ahead and and wrap this thing up really quick. I know we have our leadership summit coming up. Shout out to Dr. Darrell Camp, our AXA board president. That is coming up November 6th through the 8th. And I believe we have a video that we are going to show you all to promote that. So let's pull that. All right. AXA Leadership Summit. Again, that's November 6th through the 8th in the city of San Francisco. Tracie, I think, we have a lot to consider, a lot to think about as practitioners, as educators, as parents, family members, community members. And I think we had a lot that we can really pull from in this episode. But we're going to go ahead and let our family go. But I'll say this one last thing before I close this out. Tracie glossed over it. This is an exciting moment. The Critically Conscious Classroom is now available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So now when you're in your car, when you're on your jog, when you're in the gym, when you're with your family, we have Halloween and Thanksgiving coming up, so you can play it for everyone you love, share it. We are available, not just visually, but you can actually listen to us, and we are really excited about it. But we're going to let you all go. Thank you for staying in and locking in and watching this episode with us. We love you. We appreciate you. One last thing. We will not be on October 9th because we have a work event that we have to go through, but we will catch you thereafter. So please make sure, if you haven't set your notifications for the show, set them up. Subscribe to the AXA YouTube page. And in the meantime and in between time, we love you all. Peace.
Peace.